I want to talk to you about something nobody wants to hear. And I know that you don't want to hear it because I didn't want to hear it either for a long time. The worst thing that can happen to you isn't failure, it's regret. And the difference is failure's temporary, regret's forever. I spent years in corporate telling myself I was being patient, being strategic, being smart. The first few years, I was on absolute fire promotions, recognition, momentum, like real momentum. And then something shifted, not at the company, in me. The promotions stopped, the trajectory flattened. And instead of doing something about it, I waited. I told myself the timing wasn't right. The company was uncertain. I had responsibilities. I needed to think about it more. I needed to wait. And I waited for 8 years. During those 8 years, I watched people around me launch things. Some of their businesses failed, some succeeded, but every single one of them had something in common. They knew something I wasn't willing to admit. They knew that the cost of waiting is always higher than the cost of starting. And I eventually left without a backup plan. No safety net, no clients, nothing lined up. And the reason I had to blow up my life to change it is because I spent 8 years talking myself out of the very thing I actually wanted to do. And I'm telling you this because I talk to talented people every single day, people with real skills, people who've built things, managed teams, driven results, people who could absolutely run their own consulting practice, their own business, their own thing. And they're stuck in the same exact place I was. They say things like, I need to think about it more. The timing isn't right. I should wait until the kids are older. I should wait until the market settles. I need to save up a little more money first. I need my spouse to be fully on board. All that sounds responsible, doesn't it? It sounds like prudence, like planning, like being a mature adult. Let me tell you what it actually is. It's fear, dressed up in the language of responsibility. Because here's the thing about fear, it doesn't announce itself. It doesn't say, I'm scared, so I'm going to procrastinate. It whispers reasonably. It gives you legitimate sounding excuses. It makes procrastination feel like a plan. The person who says, I'll start next year when I have more saved up, isn't being cautious. They're being afraid. And they're calling it budgeting. So I'm Dustin Neff, your anti career coach. I help people identify their highest value skill and turn that into a consulting business in 90 to 180 days. Let me paint a picture of what waiting actually costs you. Not just financially, though that's real, but what it costs you every day you stay stuck. Every morning you wake up dreading the week ahead. That's a cost. Every Sunday night with that feeling in your chest. That's a cost. Every time you think there has to be more than this and push the thought back down, that's a cost. And here's the one that nobody talks about. The longer you wait, the scarier it gets. Fear compounds, it doesn't diminish. The longer you sit with an idea of starting something, the more reasons your brain manufactures why you can't. The more you rehearse your own objections, the more real they feel. The more you imagine the ways it could go wrong, the bigger the mental barrier grows. And I've talked to people who've been thinking about starting a business for 5, 10, 15 years, and the fear isn't smaller than it was in year one. It's exponentially larger because they've spent a decade building an elaborate fortress of reasons why it won't work. And here's the belief that keeps most people trapped, the belief that if they just wait long enough, if they just get comfortable enough, if they just gather enough information, then one day they'll finally feel ready to move. That's backwards. That is not how fear works. Fear doesn't wait for you to be ready. Fear doesn't fade because you think about it longer. Fear only dies in one way: action. Not planning for action, not thinking about action, not talking about action, but action the moment you actually move, the moment you take the first real step. Something shifts. The fear doesn't disappear overnight, but it loses its grip because now you have evidence that you can do this. Now you're in motion, and a body in motion stays in motion. So let's talk about the worst case scenario because most people have built this catastrophic picture in their head of what happens if they try something and it doesn't work. So let me ask you something. What actually happens? You launch a consulting practice and you struggle to get clients at first. Then what? You learn, you adjust, you get better at positioning, at outreach, at selling. You improvise, you grow. And if it truly doesn't work, you still have every skill you walked in with. You still have your experience, your network, your expertise. You're not starting back from zero. You're starting with decades of proof that you can go. You're starting from decades of proof that you can do hard things. The worst case isn't nearly as bad as the story you've been telling yourself. But you know what is actually bad? Waking up at 65, tired, comfortable, safe, and wondering why you spent the best years of your life being careful. That's the real worst case scenario, not failure, but regret. So I want you to think about people in your life who have taken a real chance, not the ones who had everything lined up perfectly, not the ones who waited until the timing was right, the ones who just moved, even when it was scary, even when it wasn't the right time, even when the outcome wasn't guaranteed. Those are the people who look back with no regrets. Those are the people who found out they were actually capable of more. Those are the people who woke up one day and realized this is the life I actually wanted, not the life I settled for, but the life I built. And I talk to people every single day who have the talent, skills, experience, relationships, everything they need to build something real. And the only thing between them and that life is a decision. Not more information, not more time, not better timing, a decision. Are you waking up in the middle of the night stressed about work the next day? Or are you waking up in the middle of the night excited about what you're building? Because both are possible. One of them just requires you to move first. Setbacks are going to happen. That's not pessimism. That's reality. Every person who has ever built something has hit walls, has had months where nothing worked, has questioned whether they made the right call. It's not failure, that's process. The difference between the people who make it and the people who don't isn't talent, timing, isn't even strategy. It's the courage to keep moving forward when it would be easier to stop. And that courage, it only develops when you're actually in the arena. You can't build it from the sidelines. You can't read your way to it. You can't think your way to it. You have to earn it by doing the things that scare you. So here's what I'm going to leave you with. Ask yourself this question. If fear was completely removed from the equation, what would you do next? Not 5 years from now, not eventually, not when everything perfectly aligned. What would you do next? Because whatever that answer is, that is probably the move that you should have already made. You don't need more information. You don't need more time. You don't need more better conditions. You need to decide. So if you're ready to stop thinking about it and actually build something, reach out. That's what I help people with every single day. So that's it for this video. Check out some of my other content, and I'll see you on the next.